So welcome back to OK at Work. This is with Russell Berger and Sarah Sawyer from Offit Kurman. Today we're talking about independent contractors, and we got some new laws, new guidance, some new things out there, and especially in California, having to do with classifying independent contractors. What's going on in California, Russell?
Yeah, so this is some hashtag election news. And so California had a law in place that spelled out the test that was going to be applied to workers and to determine whether or not they're an independent contractor or an employee. The way that test was being applied, it was taking a lot of gig workers, so drivers for Uber and Lyft, among others, and classifying them as employees. So they were able to get a ballot initiative on the ballot in California to determine where basically they decided that those workers should be independent contractors. So for purposes of the state laws in California, there's a ballot initiative that passed that said, hey, gig workers, you're now going to be independent contractors. You're not going to be employees, and therefore you're not going to be subject to the benefits and the protections of being an employee.
Yeah, so that's some big news out there. I know that's something that's been going on for a while, and with the independent contractor stuff, it's really with the evolution of gig workers and the gig economy. It's definitely been a hot issue for a while. And in addition to what's going on in California, we've got the U.S. Department of Labor has come out with a proposed rule that's going to be addressing how to determine whether someone is a worker or an employee under the Fair Labor Standards Act. And so that's always been there's a detailed test involving that determination, and that's always been a difficult one for employers to kind of or companies, I should say, to kind of parse through. And now they're looking at trying to simplify it and make it a little bit more business friendly is the general kind of gist, in that they're going to be focusing on two factors, two core factors, and then there's three other kind of sub factors to look at if you can't make the determination as to whether it's an employee or independent contractor under the two core factors. And the two are going to be the nature and degree of the worker's control over their work and the worker's opportunity for profit or loss based on an initiative and or investment. So that's different also than what it's been in the past, which the nature and degree of control over the work has been focused on whether the company is controlling the individual's work, not whether they're controlling their own work. So that's something that's a little bit different. And this is a proposed rule, but it hasn't come into effect yet. But definitely something to be keeping an eye out for in the
Yeah.
coming weeks.
Well, and Sarah, I know I can think of one specific case that you and I worked on together where we spent hours and hours briefing whether a worker was an employee or an independent contractor, and the voluminous economic realities test that applies here in Maryland. So there's a lot of work to be done there, and the really challenging thing I think for businesses is that's just the test for the under the federal overtime law. Different laws have different tests. So, for example, here in Maryland, the unemployment test follows what's known as the ABC test, which incidentally is what the California law was applying, and the gig workers are now no longer subject to. But then the IRS has their own test. Workers' comp has a different test. So there's really a lot of different tests depending on kind of which law you're looking at. So it's really a jumble, and that's while I think a lot of it ultimately goes back to the degree of control that's being exerted. It's something that I think business owners, if you're using independent contractors or you have workers classified as independent contractors, and it's not just the plumber showing up for kind of a one-off thing. You really got to dig into this and make sure you're doing it right, because the risk is tremendous given all the various multipliers and penalties and fee shifting that exist under a lot of these statutes.
Yeah, and I would say it's a common misconception that I've dealt with my clients that, well, if I have an independent contractor agreement, then they're an independent contractor, and that it's simple, and it's really not simple at all. And often people, businesses will look at their industry and all their competitors will be using independent contractors instead of employees, or doing it a certain way, and they're doing it wrong. But everyone's like just collectively doing it wrong. So it's really an
Right.
opportunity a lot of times for businesses who do take the time to get it right to really actually have kind of a leg up in particular industries that are doing it wrong.
Yeah, well, and that's a good point. I mean, it's not like just because the whole industry is doing it wrong doesn't mean that the whole industry isn't eventually going to get sued. And we've seen examples of that where, plaintiffs' lawyers realize the industry is getting it wrong, and they just go after that industry because it's easy pickings at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely. I mean, I think it's something to keep an eye on. Proposed rule from the DOL is they're trying to force it through, before the end of the year. So we'll see. And like a lot of the things we talk about, we'll, to keep people posted. But it's definitely something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks, Russell.
Thanks, Sarah.